Lots of excitement in Green Bay with a lot of changes going on. That's the topic for tonight, so stick around. This video is brought to you by Packer Fan Cave, everything you need to turn your man cave into a Packer fan cave. You can check them out at packerfancave.net. There is a link in the description below this video. You can also check out my website, packerfannetwork.com. There's a link in the description below this video as well. So, a lot of changes this year, much different than we're used to seeing out of the Green Bay Packers with Gutekunst taking over. And, I mean, let's face it, Packer fans are a little bummed out about Jordy Nelson, but Jimmy Graham kind of helps the feelings on that one a little bit. And, you know, Demarius Randall went away, but I don't think anybody was really surprised about that. Bringing Tramon Williams back is an awesome step in the right direction. I think he's, you know, a little bit old, but I think he's going to be ready to play this year. And Muhammad Wilkerson coming in, you know, I think Gutekunst is doing some things the right way. Here to talk about this with me is my friend Mark Padriana. Mark, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah,
I think you hit it right on the head. I think the first thing you ask Packer fans what kind of encapsulate the first month or 6 weeks of the tenure of Gutekunst, I think the first thing they would say is losing Jordy Nelson is a big deal. But I think most Packer fans are pretty savvy, pretty understanding, and
Right.
know that it's a business, and it's an unfortunate part of it because he's an all-timer. He's a Packer legend, and one day his number will be up there, I think, along the Ring of Honor. I mean, he did so much for the team. 10 years, it's hard to believe that he was there this long, but
yeah,
time flies. But yeah, I mean, Super Bowl champion and a Packer legend all the way. But it's unfortunate, but like you said, there's at least something bright on the other side to look forward to, because I think Gutekunst really has done a good job, at least on paper so far, of addressing needs. And with three, you know, and like we talked about, they didn't break the bank to do it. They didn't.
Right.
They weren't the highest. They weren't the team that went out and spent the most money in the offseason, but
Right.
they still picked up three guys in three positions that they needed to fill. And I'm really excited about what they're doing so far. So far so good. Sucks to lose Jordy. That's terrible. Like you said, I don't think a whole lot of people are losing sleep over losing losing Demarius, but I think I'm a little surprised that he did get traded, and you know, getting traded for a quarterback too.
Right.
But it's an interesting move, but I think it's a good move, and if it's lights a fire under Hundley, that'll be a good thing.
yeah.
If he turns out to be, you know, somebody that we can parlay into a draft pick in the future, that'd be a good thing. Or if he's the future quarterback of the Packers in 5 years, who knows? But I think all in all, I think they made it. He's Gutekunst is A+ for me so far, at least on paper.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like bringing Muhammad Wilkerson into the defensive line is a huge step because, I mean, we already had a pretty good defensive line, you know, and it adds depth where it's badly needed.
And maybe a little attitude, too.
Yeah,
you
yep.
know?
Now, I mean, are there any positions that you think are a must fill yet, or do you think the whole defense is
In terms of free agency, or in terms of...
just in terms of where they're at right now and moving forward?
I think, for the most part, starter-wise, I think they look pretty good. You know, but there's some depth that really needs to be added to that secondary still. But picking up a veteran like Tramon Williams, and you mentioned a little bit old. I didn't realize he was 35, but he can still play, and it makes me feel comfortable as a Packer fan knowing there's a veteran guy there that can help these young guys that we have, Kevin King, and you know the safety Jones too. That you know, just get some veteran leadership in that secondary with a guy who's a Packer. You know, he's been a Packer. He knows the system. He knows the town. He knows the team. And I still think he's got a little bit of juice left in his legs. But in terms, answering your question, I think maybe the only position that I would like to see them maybe shore up is linebacker. maybe add another body at linebacker. I don't think it's going to be through free agency this time. I mean, they might, after the draft, see if somebody gets cut or veteran guy.
Yeah.
But I would like to see them maybe add some speed at linebacker. Because like you said, Wilkerson, I think is going to change the defense a little bit starting up front. And we already talked about Tremont Williams. I would like to see them add maybe another linebacker in the secondary. But it's not something that's, keeping me awake at night. I don't think they're
Right.
going to... I mean, I think there's some good young guys. I like Blake Martinez. He had an excellent season last year, really underrated season, and of course the Claymaker being in there. And I do like some of the bodies they have back there, but I would like to see them add a little bit of youth and speed in that linebacking core. But so far, the team looks much better on defense.
I'm excited and hopeful for Vince Beagle, but I'm a little worried that he's just going to be an injury problem for most of his career until he goes somewhere else.
You think so?
That's a worry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. But, I mean, I think he's going to be one of those guys I'm going to not rely on, but hope it as a pleasant surprise to be surprised by. I hope that I don't count on him to be great, but all of a sudden I remember that he's... Oh, yeah, they have Vince Beagle, and all of a sudden he's making plays left and right.
Yeah, kind of like Nick Perry was.
Nick Perry, exactly. And I think he started coming into his own last year, too. And, still didn't quite have the consistency, but, man, there was games where he was absolute monster on the field last year and dominated,
Yeah.
So, like I said, there's some guys I really like there, but I would like to see them add a little speed and a little youth on there in that core as a whole.
Yeah. No, but I think... Patina's going to have a good defense to work with coming in with his first year as the Packers defensive coordinator. I think Gutekunst is doing a good job of filling holes in the defense, filling holes through free agency, like you said, and we definitely talk defense. How do you feel moving forward with this offense?
Well, as long as you got 12 back there, I always feel good.
Right.
And hopefully this guy stays healthy this year. And not that he's been, a constant injured player, but I mean, last year was really tough to take, and hopefully that was just one of those things that happens, and he's going to come back out firing and be really motivated this year. But on the whole, I think losing Jordy is, I think it's going to be bigger emotionally than it will be statistically. I mean, I don't think to say Jordy was on the the decline and he wasn't going to put up any numbers. I think his numbers can maybe. It's hard to say they're going to be replaced, but I think for the most part, I think there's going to be with having Aaron back there, he's going to spread the ball around, and I think Devontae is going to have another huge season. I think you're going to see a breakout season from. Geronimo Allison, I think he's going to have a huge year stepping up. He's not going to be Jordy Nelson, but I think those numbers, those touchdowns, are going to come from somewhere. And I really like the stable of young running backs they have.
Absolutely.
Last year, both the rookies they had last year had stretches before they got hurt of just absolute tremendous games. So I'm really happy there. I think they could definitely add some youth in the wide receiver where they can draft some guys in the later rounds. They've been really successful over the years. That's one thing Ted always, hit home runs on was mid to late round wide receiver picks.
Yeah.
He nailed all of them. So hopefully Gutekunst can take over in that regard and kind of follow in Ted's footsteps where that's concerned. But, I like where they're at offensively. I hope this line stays healthy this year. That's, I think, a key to last year as well. But
I'd like to see him get a little more depth in the offensive line. I know they've got a couple of guys that can play backup, but I think, Bulaga seems like he's a guy who's just going to get hurt, at some point.
Yeah.
And offensive line, that's a tough position. It's a tough area to play on the field. You're right there in the trenches. You're the position that's guaranteed to get hit every play, I'd definitely like to see a little more depth there. And, I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do with Ty Montgomery moving forward.
That's another guy
You
I
know.
didn't even mention in the backfield, and yeah, he's a versatile player. You could, maybe now he maybe plays a little more wide receiver this year. There's more catches out there for him. We'll see. I was going to ask you. I was curious what you think because we talked about, now that free agency is for the most part winding down. There's still some players available out there, but I think the Packers may be done for the most part, especially or at least for the big name players. Going into the draft, we talked about the secondary needed to add depth, and the linebacking core could probably add depth, and the offensive line and the wide receiving core could add depth.
Yeah.
So now that we kind of know where we're going to draft, and I know your philosophy is always best player available.
Yep.
Well, as far as position groups, what do you think is the most important to add depth to?
I mean, honestly, I would think that the most important to add depth to is going to be the offensive line. Keep your quarterback safe. We saw last year, we obviously don't like it when he gets hurt. Keep your quarterback safe. I think that's going to be one of our most important. I'm not saying you got to go there in the first round, but definitely go there early, and find somebody that's going to protect him. Somebody that's going to protect and be there just in case when somebody that you're relying on is going to get hurt. I think after that, I think defensive secondary is, and I'd rather see them go there in the first round, just because I think there's more talent later when it comes to offensive line than there's going to be in the secondary and the defense.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I would put those two in a tie. I think the offensive line depth up there is really underrated. Spriggs is a guy that we thought, or they thought as an organization was going to be that guy. They took him out of Indiana, I believe, 3 or 4 years ago, and he's just not panned out to be that guy. And I agree. I think they could add a couple of players. I wouldn't mind them seeing a couple of draft picks. That you got 7 rounds and I think 9 draft picks this year. I wouldn't mind at all seeing a couple of linemen taken and a couple in the secondary. I think those are both of equal importance. I think the wide receivers you can get later, and the running backs you can get, or the linebackers you can get later. I don't know. It's interesting. I've been not like checking out mock drafts every day, but I have glanced just to see what the Packers, what people are talking about them taking, and a lot of them have them going mostly defense. I've seen a couple of defensive ends, edge rushers that have been mentioned, kind of guys that are going to fall to their, to that 14 spot. So that's going to be interesting. I think they probably will go defense the first round with that first pick. But we don't know. We've been talking about all off season. We have no idea what this new regime with Gutekunst. He may pull a draft day trade. He might trade up. We haven't seen that since Clay Matthews.
Right.
So it's going to be. I'm really excited. We talked about this earlier. This is the most excited, the most juice I've had about the team in the off season in years. It's just everything's exciting because it's new, and so far so good. So
Yeah, as a Packer fan, we're all used to Ted Thompson, knowing that he's going to hibernate through this part of the off season, and we'll really start to see the Packers make moves when the draft comes.
Yeah. And our free agency starts when the draft's over, when teams start releasing guys because they picked up guys in the draft. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's what, it's just exciting. I think, and I see a lot of excitement out of more and more Packer fans too, when it comes to seeing the team this active this early in the off season. I loved the concept of building for a future that never comes, but it seems like Gutekunst comes in and says, well, I can build for the future and build for this year. And I think that's something that Ted Thompson, and don't get me wrong, I like Ted Thompson. I think he was an awesome GM. I think he did a lot of really good things for the team, but I think his concept got stale. His concept got old and just wasn't what the Packers needed anymore. We needed somebody that was going to come in and do something this early in the off season and say, we're going to make a run this year. We're going to make this year our year.
Yeah, and he didn't have to go out on the first day and sign the biggest guy to the most money just because that's what,
Right.
Free agency's all about. No, Muhammad Wilkerson's on a 1-year, $5 million deal.
Yeah.
I mean, Tremont Williams, I think, is...
He's a 2-year deal, but they worked it into the contract that they don't have to keep him next year if they don't think he performs well enough
and
this
it's at
year.
a relatively low number for the 2 years as well. I think it's around $10 million for the 2 years. I think it's around $5 million too. And Jimmy Graham's still a stud. No matter what you're paying him, you're not overpaying him. And
Right.
this guy's going to produce. He's going to put up numbers, and he's working with, a real. I mean, nothing against. Drew Brees. When he had Drew Brees, he was putting up his biggest numbers. Russell Wilson, I think, is a great quarterback, but I don't think he's the same kind of quarterback in the same league as a Drew Brees, or certainly not an Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And I think you're going to see some mind-boggling numbers from Jimmy Graham this year. I mean, you're not going to forget about Jordy Nelson, but your mind's going to be eased because this guy is going to, he's going to succeed in Green Bay. And I know we said that about Martellus Bennett, but that was a different kind of success. I think we saw chemistry between him and Rodgers last year where we were anticipating that he could translate that to the field. But he's not the same kind of athletic stud that Jimmy Graham is. I mean, this dude dominates, and I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, me too.
Can't wait.
Yeah, and what do you guys think out there? Do you think Gutekunst is making good moves? Do you think he, is doing what you wanted, or do you think he's doing something different than you wanted? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button and share it with all your friends. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Mark, thanks again for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for the Packer Fan Network, I am Mark Schneider.